I want to welcome you back to the Manage to Win podcast. Today's episode is a lot of fun because we're talking with Samantha Citro Alexander. She's the co-founder of Bitewell. It's a food health company on a mission to improve health through food and through companies, so your company can offer your people great food. It's interesting because she climbed the corporate ladder at the Estée Lauder Companies. She was chief of staff to Jane Lauder. How do you like that? And then she jumped off the corporate ladder to start this startup. And we have a really good conversation. I think you'll enjoy it. Please don't forget our sponsor, Habitly.com, where you can learn great habits. We don't teach how to eat well, on Habitly.com, but Bitewell's got some cool stuff they're doing that you probably want to learn about, and also her entrepreneurial journey. Let's dive in. Sam, I've got a question for you. So you were like at the top of the game at Estée Lauder. You were chief of staff. And then you jump in to do a startup. You've climbed all the way to the all the way up the corporate ladder, and then you jumped off. So talk to me about, how do you make that decision? I mean, there's some risks there, whereas before you're in, I don't know what type of battles or whatever, you're working your way up. But what drove you to do that?
I'm laughing because I was at a breakfast yesterday with an incredibly interesting man, and he asked me exactly the same question. He basically very politely said, are you crazy? Why did you leave this very successful corporate career to go start a business and take an immense amount of risk? The answer is multifold. So when I started my career, my first job out of school was with a company called Juara Skincare. And I was basically the first employee outside of the founding group. And it was magical. There was this magic created in the space where a lack of knowledge was. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what the business was going to look like as it unfolded. And I was able to have my hands in every piece of the business, from product development through to what kind of boxes we were using at the warehouse to ship out products so it didn't break, and everything in between. And although I've had a lot of success in my career, I was always searching for that magic. And I think that magic lives at the starting of a company, which is why I took the leap and joined Chris in creating Bitewell.
It's interesting to say that because over this past weekend, my wife and I watched the movie The Intern.
I love that movie.
Yeah, which, I didn't like the way it was written. I thought the writing could have been different in several ways, but I love the acting. I mean, the actors are so skilled. But that whole concept where he was telling her, as Robert De Niro as the 70-year-old intern, was telling her, hey, nobody can run the company the way you run it. When I saw you in the warehouse and you're showing the packers exactly how you want them to pack it and put the ribbon across, nobody's going to do that. You can't hire a CEO who's going to do that. No, nobody's going to own it. And what bothered me, part of the thing that bothered me with the writers, was they never had him help her address some of her shortfalls, like time management or, some other things. It would have been, that was just one piece of the puzzle, where my issue was with the writers and not the actors. I thought the actors did a great job. I thought it was a pretty good storyline also, but because the writers, I thought it lacked some things, but it had some fun stuff. I agree with you. It was cool.
I agree. It could have had more depth for sure, but the relationship between Anna Hathaway's character and Robert De Niro's character was just very heartwarming to me.
Oh, yeah. I thought they did a great job. And, you bring it back to your situation, which you just brought up, is that I think that's one of the things where leaders get caught up in running the company and doing tasks so much, they forget to step back to the strategic of, how do I help my people own things like you just described, and to keep that going? And you're in a whole new category. By the way, our audience, even though I introduced it, may not fully understand what you're doing. So why don't you explain what you're doing at Bitewell that's so unique and different?
Yeah, absolutely. So At Bitewell, we are pioneering food as a health benefit. So when you think about the healthcare landscape, I recently read a stat that was crazy, that over 75% of chronic diseases are entirely preventable by eating the right foods. And yet, right? Isn't that 75%?
No, I'm totally on the same page. Yeah. And I believe the statistic, and I don't think it's one source that's come up with that conclusion.
Many sources, right? Yeah. Maybe it's even higher, but 75% was the one that I read recently. I think it was from the CDC. And when you look at health benefit spending and the way that we address our healthcare problem, do you want to guess how much of it goes to food?
Well, it's probably really small. The majority goes to the pharmaceutical companies.
It's basically zero. Basically zero. The category of food as a health benefit just started emerging this year. And we're in really excellent company with players like Instacart Health that are starting to step into the space. My prediction is that 10 years from now, food as a health benefit will be just as ubiquitous as mental health care as a health benefit. But today it's in its infancy. And so that's what we're building here at Bitewell, which is another reason why I left, successful corporate career to start two-person startup, is because I really believe in the space that we are creating. And the idea of creating a category is an incredibly exciting one to me.
I remember back in the 80s, the mid 1980s, I was starting a company, and there was a guy who was starting a company in like Oakland area, California. And what his deal was, they would bring fresh fruit to your company. I don't know. I think it couldn't have been daily, but it was like, I don't know what the schedule was, but they would bring fresh fruit. It was like farm delivery, farm fresh type of thing. And they're still going. I had to have to look it up to know the company, and they got much larger, but I think it's still Bay Area based. But that was the early days. He was actually delivering it, to us back then, or pitching us. I forget which, but you jump in a space. So what exactly does that look like when we're talking about good food as a benefit? So if I'm a leader, I've got a company, I got 10, 20, 100 people reporting to me or more. And what does it look like if I want to try to introduce healthy food to them when they're walking in the door every day with their big gulps and their other toxic waste, Twinkies, whatever it might be? You can go down the list depending on your bias. And how do I introduce that and get them to buy in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key phrase there is to buy in, because we take a behavioral economics approach to changing behavior around food. So the way that our platform works, we pull in the entire food supply. So restaurant meals, groceries, meal kits. If it's deliverable on DoorDash or Uber Eats or Instacart, it lives within Bitewell. We then assign over 250 health attributes to all of that food. So we know items that might be heart healthy or good for lowering cholesterol, or items that are free of shellfish for people with allergies like me. We then pull in a bunch of user data so that we can match food to people and say, hey, Cindy, I know that you love to eat at Taco Bell. That's okay. Here's the menu at Taco Bell, and we're going to score every item on the menu at Taco Bell so that you know which Taco Bell item would be better for you than the one that you're ordering today. And then you can place that order on the Bitewell platform with funds provided by your employer. So your employer is subsidizing the cost of healthy food through the Bitewell platform.
Yeah, but you just brought up Taco Bell. I never think of Taco Bell as healthy food. So, I mean, I know you're trying to be fair or kind, but how do you also educate people, or are you even involved in it? Well, let me back up. You brought up that you categorize the food and the sources.
Yep.
How do you know the people and what my needs are? If I'm on your platform, how do you know? I don't know what you know about me, but how do you know enough about me that you're going to be matching food?
Good question. So the way that it starts is fairly simple. We use a questionnaire and self-reported data about dietary needs, restrictions, conditions that they're trying to manage. And we start there. What we'll do over time is integrate with lab testing, DNA results, your continuous glucose monitors and biometric devices to pull in much more detailed data about your body, how it works, and how it reacts to the foods that you order on the Bitewell platform. So it starts simple and qualitative and becomes much more robust over time.
And then can I take my profile from company to company if there's, as I leave?
You can. Yep, you absolutely can.
That's a great thing. I love that model. And what about, I'm the person that loves Taco Bell and anything fried and big gulps, and I drink about a gallon of coffee a day. So how do you have any way that will help me wake up to the fact that I'm basically killing myself slowly?
Yes. So what's really interesting, okay, two pieces to this. The first is that our perspective is that health needs to be approachable for it to be useful. And so if you are eating, fried foods every day, it is not my goal that you wake up tomorrow and are only eating salads, because that's not approachable or achievable for you. What would be amazing is if you integrated broccoli into one of those meals, and then we can get broccoli into two of those meals, and we can
I fry the broccoli too?
I'd prefer you didn't, but I suppose you could. But you could change that behavior over time, right? Principle one is we want you to make incrementally better choices every day, not the absolute best choice tomorrow. The second principle, and really how we address education and behavior change at Bitewell, is through our scoring system. When you do research on scoring systems and on the idea of the stoplight colors of red, yellow, green associated with different scores, there is a natural pause that is ingrained into all of us when we see the color red on an item that we're about to purchase, or when we're rolling up to a stop sign. We are conditioned to stop or to pause. And so if I'm looking at the Taco Bell menu and I'm about to purchase an item that is maybe a 2 out of 10 on the food health score for me, and it's red, bright red, am I going to click? I'm going to pause. And I'm going to think about adding something to my cart that's maybe orange or maybe yellow or maybe green, because that feels better to me. And so that constant behavior of, I'm going to look at food, I'm going to see a color. I'm going to look at food, I'm going to see a color. And the impact of those colors on your behavior is how we educate and change over time.
So if I'm on your platform and I'm looking at Taco Bell and looking at their nachos of death, and I'm considering buying these, so there's a red there for me, at least. I would assume for most everybody, but I do have my bias because 2 years ago I became vegan with my wife, although we do eat fish, and I do cheat in some minor ways, half and half in my coffee, and I do love cookies. Cookie day keeps the doctor away. So
none of us are binary creatures, right? I love that profile, because that profile is exactly the reason why Bitewell exists. I'm vegan, but I do this, and I also do this, and on Mondays I do this, and I also live this, and it's like great.
Yeah. So when I look at the nachos of death, and does it not only give me the red, but does Bitewell give me an alternative, whether it's at Taco Bell or somewhere else, or do I need to just look at the red and go, oh, I need to find an orange or a yellow or something, or at least consider that?
Yeah. So we do a couple of things. We show you red, we tell you why it's red, and then we show you other options.
That's great.
So you get a flag, you get education, and then you get choice.
That's great. So I'm curious. We do a lot on this show about people who've overcome challenges in life. Have you had any challenges, major challenges in life that you've overcome that kind of led you down this path to starting this company? Because you're obviously very passionate about it, and I love the traction you're having. And I sure hope you're right, that we shift the tide and people start eating healthier foods and getting healthier. Because it's kind of scary sometimes to go out there, and in certain crowds of people, you're just looking around, you're just like, wow, these people just don't look healthy.
Yeah, I think we must, right? We're getting to a point where even if the way that you feel isn't enough for you to make change, the cost associated is becoming enough. The economic impact of our collective unhealthfulness is becoming untenable for everyone involved, from insurers to employers to individuals. And so my strong conviction is that we're not going to change because we want to change, but because we must. To go back to your earlier question about overcoming obstacles and difficulties, I have had my own issues with food and food's impact on my health that are certainly not nearly as serious as many other people have. But in the early, or I guess the late 90s, early 2000s, myself, my sister, and all of my cousins started to get diagnosed with a series of allergies and dietary restrictions, from mildly inconvenient to serious and life-threatening, and everything in between. What's really interesting is that I grew up in a pretty big Italian family where food was central to everything that we did. It is how we show love. It is how we show culture. It's how we communicate with each other, right? And we have these recipes that have lived in my family forever and ever and ever. My grandmother is an incredible cook. And as we all started to get diagnosed with our different food-related issues, our family recipes began to change. And now we have these modifications of like this crazy cookie that my grandmother created because I couldn't have dairy and my sister couldn't have nuts and my cousin couldn't have eggs and someone couldn't have, I don't remember what the other ingredient was. And so there's these cookies that have no dairy, no eggs, no sugar, no nuts, and they're delicious, but they came through love and trial and error and care, and the fact that the world is evolving and the way that people think about food and food's impact on their health is evolving. So that's my story. It's less a story of hardship and more a story of impact, I guess, and change and culture.
It strikes me because as we have gone the vegan route, we haven't been really aggressive with, really doing a lot of vegan recipes. I mean, we have a staple kind of week by week with, brown rice, and we throw in some wild rice, and I cook a huge skillet of vegetables and we mix it in and whatever.
Can I come over for dinner? That sounds great.
Yeah. Anytime you're in town, just let us know. We got extra bedrooms too. You can stay here. Don't worry about it. So, but the one thing we found that's a lot of fun is like my wife makes vegan. Well, I don't know whether they're vegan. They're organic. I think they're vegan too. She doesn't use. She uses some brown sugar, but no butter. Peanut butter cookies. So I love a cookie with coffee. And then we just started a few weeks ago. She made this apple crisp that uses some frozen organic raspberries and a lot of oats and totally vegan, organic type of thing. And it's phenomenal. And I grew up with a mother who made a killer apple pie. I mean, it was my favorite. I would have like a quarter of the pie, even in my adulthood. But this is just great. So you can find some recipes that are incredible. Let me go back though. So another thing that strikes me about your program is it kind of reminds me, I don't know whether you ever saw it years ago, there was a book called The Dream Manager. And then there was a follow-on by a guy who actually implemented the Dream Manager called The Dream Machine. So he took it to another level. And his podcast, I interviewed him a while back. I don't know how many podcasts ago. I think he was earlier this year. Great guy. And the concept of and the reason I'm bringing it up, the Dream Manager and the Dream Machine, is that you help employees on an optional basis. You want to opt into this, and we will have the Dream Manager did it as a third party. So do you have a dream we can help you achieve? And his proverb or parable was, it was a janitorial company, high turnover. How do you stop the high turnover? Well, they started connecting people to their dreams and helping them achieve their dreams, getting educational, college education, paying off college education, buying a home, buying a car, whatever it might be. And on an optional basis, the company would pay that they could meet with a financial advisor and they would help them achieve this goal because they didn't have the skill to achieve the goal on their own. The Dream Machine, I wish I could remember his name. And he came out where he took it another level. He actually asked the manager doing it, and they're like, we want you to write all your dreams down, and then we're going to check with you on them. And he's got one guy who has 1,000 dreams. I'm like, come on, that's a little bit overkill, but whatever. And it's really not optional. With him, it's part of the company culture. So when we talk about health, and you brought it up, how do you get people to change those habits, those behaviors? And you do it one step at a time. Mm-hmm. I remember Zig Ziglar talked about he was over 100 pounds overweight, and he decided he'd start running. And he went out and ran 1 block. And day 2, he ran 2 blocks. Mm-hmm. And he lost his 100 pounds. I don't know, it took a year or 2, but bit by bit, he worked at it. So how does Bitewell help a company that wants to help their people understand better health and be more open to it? Do you have any trainings or templates for programs or whatever that you offer that help employers do it in a non-confrontational way of, hey, here's an option you may want to consider that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we can. So we have a number of dietitians on the team who are available to help the companies that we work with. We have a lot of great educational materials. But the thing that we have found to be the most successful is simply giving funds. So companies generally spend money on food in some way, shape, or form. Office snacks, candy, lunches, pizza on Fridays, whatever that is. Instead of spending the money on that, take those dollars and put them as a stipend into your team's Bitewell account and let them know that they're there. Hey, we're giving you $50 this month to spend on healthier food choices with Bitewell. Download the app, check it out. Your stipend's in there. Make a purchase if you want to. Don't make a purchase if you don't want to. And more often than not, if the money is there sitting in the account, they will make the purchase. And through the act of, right, why wouldn't you? It's $50 extra dollars a month that I didn't have before.
I'm Scottish. I'm always going for it.
And by nature of making the purchase, of downloading the app, of looking through the food, and by making a choice, you have already learned something that you didn't know before. And that curiosity and thirst for knowledge and really just learning more about yourself, because every score helps you to understand yourself better. Learning about yourself is everyone's favorite activity. Free money is everyone's favorite thing. And when you put those two things together, you start to really see change. I'm being a little bit, funny about it, but truly kind of at the core, those are the things that drive change. It's economics and an incentive and knowledge.
Yeah, and I don't know whether you have a story, because I don't know how much. I know you're talking with customers, but I don't know how much. But let's say I'm a company. I roll this out. I have whatever number of employees, and I'm 3 months into it. I'm going $50 a month per employee, and I assume I can track that in your app, right? Can I do that as an employer?
Yep, you absolutely can.
Okay, and so let's say I have one employee. I probably have more who hasn't used it at all. Mm-hmm. So have you had any feedback from customers on what that conversation looks like when the company, their manager, or whoever is appropriate, talks with the employee and kind of says, hey, we got this benefit. Notice you're not taking advantage of it. And would you like to learn more? Do you not know how to use it or whatever? Have you had anything where anybody's had success that way?
So we don't know yet. We have spent the second half of this year building up our customer base, and everyone goes live in January. So we don't know. We do have users outside of their company environments that are on the app and using, so we know that engagement is high. We know about behavior. We know about behavior change. We don't quite know about that. What I would anticipate is that if you take Bitewell out of the singular context of food benefit and put it into the broader context of health benefits, companies provide many, many health benefits. The benchmark for usage of a health benefit broadly is less than 10%. Less than 10% of your employees are likely to use any health benefit that you put on the table, whether that's mental health services or access to a nutritionist or preventative labs or whatever those things might be. What's really interesting is that on Bitewell, we see 85% weekly engagement with the users who are on our app. And so the diff between what's expected and what we're seeing today is so large that we don't expect those conversations to happen much.
What strikes me is that, as COVID hit, and then we've had more and more people working remotely and in a hybrid environment, one of the things I've recommended to my clients that, I work with leaders in company culture is if you can't get together in person, do an online Zoom, off hours or paid hours, and pay for a meal for them, type of thing. It strikes me that possibly if I was using Bitewell in a company environment, everybody had their accounts set up, we could allocate an additional $20, $30, whatever the meal was. Maybe it's $20 for lunch, maybe it's a little bit more for dinner, and encourage people, hey, use the app. So I can kind of grease the skids. I can get them used to using it and trying to understand it, and then have people talking about how that worked for them. And then it starts some data flow type of thing, but also supports you having that time together.
Yeah.
Which some of my companies just do as banter time. Some of them play some games, some of them do some trainings, whatever. But it seems like that might be an option if I wanted to get my people involved. I just feel that this is such an important piece of the puzzle because if you don't have a healthy employee, so if they're significantly overweight or even somewhat overweight, or you can just tell by the color of their skin or whatever that they're either not exercising or they're eating poorly or whatever it might be, it's like you want to help, but you can't do anything legally. It's not like you can tell them, hey, you got to go on an exercise program. You got to change your diet. So I like the fact that you not only provide the service that helps them pick some food and have the company do it in a way that encourages better eating, but also has a lot of data behind it so they can be helped to make some better decisions that are specifically tailored to their DNA and what's going on in their body.
Yeah. And I think, look, I am in a unique seat because I am both an employer myself and use this for my team, and I'm the creator of this company that other people use. And for myself as an employer, what's most important to me is that my team is healthy and happy and productive, and I am doing whatever I can to help them achieve those goals in whatever way makes sense for them. Because health is super personal. And whether someone looks healthy or not, someone could be healthy or not, right? Sometimes you can tell physically, sometimes you can't. And it doesn't really matter. It's up to you as an individual to take your health into your own hands. And it is up to me as your employer to provide you with as many tools and resources for you to do that as I possibly can. And that is how I like to think about us as a company. We are another resource. We're helping you as an employer use your dollars better for your people to give them as much access as possible to the resources that they need to feel their best.
Now, thinking about it, if I'm going to have my personal information on there, is there some privacy standards within the software so my employer can only see certain things, but not other things?
Yep, absolutely. And you're entirely in control of what information you share back to your employer or not as an individual user.
Okay. And then you mentioned something about you're doing your full launch in January, and right now you're kind of doing partial launch, whatever. Will you go into the details of that just so the audience can understand that?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So our employee and employer benefits portal and product launches in January. So companies will be on, their employees will be on, they'll be giving them food stipends, and we'll start to see that data. What exists today is just the employee piece given to individual users. So as an individual user, you can purchase food on Bitewell, you can filter that food and understand a little bit more about it, but you're not getting all of the richness of data that will launch in January. So the fact that we're seeing such high engagement with a product that doesn't even give you the richness of data of what is coming in full in 2023 is incredibly promising to us.
Well, I also like it that if I wanted to try it out, I can try, you said free, right? I can try it out as an individual for free right now?
Yeah, you can head to bitewell.com and check out the food that we have available for purchase, and you can filter it and learn about it and make purchases there on bitewell.com. That's what's available live today. And then starting January of 2023, we've got the whole shebang.
Yeah. So at least you can test it, see whether it makes sense to consider as a strategic move in 2023. And talk to me about, you say I can buy it on Bitewell. So whether I want to go to, I don't think I'll be seen in a Taco Bell unless I'm forced to be there. But although I know some nice Taco Bell franchisees, but let's say I wanted to go, whether it's, and I don't even do Chick-fil-A, but because I'm vegan, but my kids love Chick-fil-A, or maybe Chipotle used to be good, but they're kind of touch and go nowadays. So sorry to be so biased in this, but what if I want to buy, you say buy the food on Bitewell. What does that mean? Is it like Bitewell hooked into DoorDash, or am I buying it on Bitewell and then I'm going locally to get it? What exactly is that process?
Yep. So the way that we pull in all of the food data and enable purchasing is by connecting with all of the delivery and logistics providers that you already know and love. So DoorDash, Delivery.com, Instacart, all the meal kit companies, we connect, we integrate. So when you place a purchase on Bitewell, we send that purchase out either for delivery, or you can pick it up, or, however you want to get the food through one of our partners.
Yeah, that sounds great. So that gives you some flexibility. And what happens if I want to buy from a place and it's not on your system?
You can ping us and ask us to add it. But we have very, very good coverage of the food supply. We have over 15 million meals and products available on Bitewell. So chances are it's there.
Well, I love supporting local businesses. So, that would be great. What have I not asked about your entrepreneurial journey that you think would benefit our audience to know? Because as we talked about, I'm going back to the beginning, you climbed this corporate ladder and then jumped off. So, fortunately into a safety net. But what's a piece of your experience that you would like to point out to others that really helped you, that may help them?
Sure. So, I guess the question would be, do I regret it? Did I make the right choice? And I certainly don't regret it, and did make the right choice for me. The thing that I underestimated when I took that leap was how long it would take. Even when your intentions are running at the speed of light, developing and building a company and trial and error around solutions and zoning in on the right problem takes time. And I wish that I had known that before I had taken the jump.
Fantastic. So if they want to learn more, where do they go?
If you want to learn more about Bitewell, head to bitewell.com. If you want to learn more about me, or have questions for me, or want to implement Bitewell for your team, you can find me on LinkedIn under Samantha Citro Alexander.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for being on the show, Sam. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Really great to meet you.
Thanks for tuning in today. If you like the episode with Sam, how about giving us some feedback? Subscribe. Have somebody else subscribe. We'd love to have you join the family here. Don't forget our sponsor, Habitly.com. They've got great things going on there. Learn the habits of highly successful people. Learn how to achieve those goals in this new year coming up. And learn how to get along better with people, manage your time, whatever your challenge might be, or your strength, your strongest habit. Let's make it stronger. That's always a good thing. Thanks again for joining us. Stay tuned. More great guests coming. Bye for now.